Using the collapsed pyramid as a prototype, Eisler proposes that most pyramids built after the collapsed pyramid consist of 3 stages of construction. First, an inner stepped core, not unlike the core of the collapsed pyramid, was built. Then, the base was enlarged, and the large steps were progressively filled in with a second layer of smaller steps, creating a shape much closer to a true pyramid. Finally, the small stepped exterior was encased in a layer of finely finished limestone, creating a true smooth-sided pyramid. Because so much of the original stone remains on the Great Pyramid, it is impossible to tell if this 3-stage process was used in its construction. But as evidence for his theory, Eisler points to a number of smaller pyramids, called Queen's Pyramids, that stand alongside the large pyramids at Giza, and which were built at about the same time.
And the remains there show nucleus of large steps, which were then filled in with what we call packing stones, which are smaller stones and brought it to a more pyramidal shape. And finally, this whole thing was encased with a mantle of smooth limestone that met at a point in the top.
There are also several theories concerning how the stones were raised to the height of the upper courses. Most of them involve the construction of ramps that either spiraled around the pyramid as it grew, or led directly to the current level of construction.
The ramp that the Egyptians used to construct the pyramid was huge, constructed of stone rubble and mud. Then when the Egyptians will dismantle this ramp, they had to leave evidence under the ground of that ramp. I did excavate on the south side, and the surprise was discovering a small section of the ramp.
But some experts, including Martin Eisler, believe that if a large ramp was employed, its remains would be far more evident.
You can't erase a ramp that may have reached a height of 500 feet. The remains would be obvious by aerial photography.
Mr. Eisler does think ramps were used, but only on the lower, more easily accessible levels of a pyramid. For the higher stages, he believes another method was employed.
I believe they got the stones up the pyramid by putting a slideway of planks along the side and pulling the stone by a crew of men who are located up the pyramid and snubbing the rope around a log which is further up the pyramid. The whole process can be aided considerably by using levers as the stone is elevated, so that with the aid of levers and with the aid of crews of men standing uphill, I believe they could pull these stones into position.
Indeed, at many pyramids, notches in the building stones which may have been used for the placement of levers are still visible. Though controversial, the idea of pulling and levering the stones into place does address the shortcomings of the various ramp theories, but as of yet, no one knows for certain exactly how the ancient Egyptians, a society that didn't even possess the wheel, accomplished this remarkable feat of engineering. Once all the blocks were in place, the Great Pyramid was capped with a triangular piece of granite, meant to represent the sacred Ben-Men stone, symbol of the primordial mound, much like this one which was found at Giza, which may have been coated with a hammered-on layer of gold. Then, using the same methods that were employed to raise and place the other stones, the body of the pyramid was covered with a casing of fine white limestone. Shimmering in the desert sun, the final appearance of the pyramid must have been spectacular, giving those who worked on it an immense sense of pride. Its final height was 481 feet, making it the tallest structure in the world until the Cologne Cathedral of Germany topped it in 1880. The pyramid contains an estimated 2.3 million blocks of stone, each weighing up to 2.5 tons. Many archaeologists believe that the entire process took almost 23 years. As impressive as the exterior of the Great Pyramid is, its interior is equally remarkable. As in the case of all earlier pyramids, there are a series of tunnels and chambers.
The interior arrangements of the Pyramid of Khufu are elaborate. There are 3 burial chambers, and it is not agreed today whether there are supposed to be 3, it was intended from the beginning, or whether they were revising their plans.
Because of these multiple chambers, and the fact that the pyramid was looted of its contents long ago, no one knows for certain exactly where Khufu was buried. But what is believed to be the true burial chamber of the king is reached by a long passageway, which then turns into an immense ascending gallery, the so-called Grand Gallery, a corbelled passageway nearly 150 feet long and 26 feet high.
Corbelled means that the headers or short ends of the blocks get successively closer and closer and closer, so you're looking at a sort of inverse stairway, which finally comes together way up in the distance on high.
Finally, the Grand Gallery leads to the heart of the Great Pyramid. Because this chamber is the only one of the three within the pyramid that contains a sarcophagus, most scholars believe that this is where King Khufu was actually buried.
It is lined entirely with granite. That's a wonderful thing. Granite being a stone that was charged with solar associations because it's red for one reason.
30 feet by 15 feet and nearly 18 feet high, the roof of the king's chamber consists of several massive granite slabs, each weighing more than 70 tons. Above this, there are also a series of false roofs that were designed to reduce the enormous weight pressing down on the chamber from above. They have worked brilliantly for over 40 centuries. Khufu had willed the construction of the greatest engineering marvel of the ancient world. However, the completion of the Great Pyramid didn't end the building on the Giza Plateau. Indeed, it was only the beginning. The only known figure of the ruler who built the greatest pyramid on Earth is a tiny statuette of King Khufu, no more than 3 inches high. Egyptian pyramids will return on Modern Marvels. We now return to Egyptian pyramids on Modern Marvels. The second large pyramid on the Giza Plateau was built by Khufu's son, King Khafre. Begun around 2520 BC, it was constructed using the same basic methods as those employed on the Great Pyramid. Its base is 705 feet on each side, and it rises to a height of 471 feet, only 10 feet shorter than the Great Pyramid. But because it is built on ground that is 33 feet higher than the Great Pyramid, it appears to be even taller. Due to its smaller base, it also rises at a sharper angle than the Great Pyramid, over 53 degrees to the Great Pyramid's 51 degrees.
And another reason it looks different is that at the very top of it, we have the original fine casing stones that have been left there. So it has a very different profile.
The inside of Khafre's pyramid is different as well. Unlike the Great Pyramid's complex system of tunnels, shafts, and chambers, Khafre's pyramid has a relatively simple internal plan, consisting of 2 passageways that converge on a single burial chamber.
The colossal statue behind me represents Mycerinus, or Menkaure Re, who built the 3rd pyramid and pyramid complex at the Giza necropolis.
With a base of 335 by 343 feet, Menkaure's pyramid rises to a height of 213 feet, at an angle of slightly more than 51 degrees, making it considerably smaller than Khafre's pyramid.